Hello, everyone, and welcome to an earlier than usual episode post World Cup match of The Ball is Round. On today's episode, Fonzie makes history while Canada are eliminated from World Cup contention. More rumors surround CF Montreal departures, and more, as always, on episode 111 of The Ball is Round. Hello, everyone. I'm filling in for Sam Savvy while he is out for the next couple of weeks or so. And welcome to my wonderful compatriots. We have Hady Raphael and Paul Vance. Welcome back, Paul.
It's great to be back. I wish the news from earlier had been better, but no one's been disgraced, so that's good.
There we
go. Exactly. You know, every time you're in, Paul, there's something bad that's going on. What's up, man?
Do you know what?
What are you doing, man? What are you doing?
No, but listen, you told me to come on, so I go on the safari. I think this will be really straightforward. I even tried to do it early, and of course, it doesn't support the browser. So I had to go a whole roundabout way and get in through Chrome, and I had to log out of Chrome to get back into Chrome. But anyway, you don't really want to know.
At least you're here, man. At least you're here.
At least you're here to commiserate with us. And how are you holding up, Hady?
I'm fine. I'm a bit like Alain. He says, I think I need no soccer in my life for like the next 3 months. Love ya, but detox times, I suppose. He's not staying with us today.
Totally get it.
Got it. But you know what? Nothing very surprising, right?
No, not at all. And I think, last Sunday when we were talking with Eric Chenois, we were pretty realistic about how things were going to go for Canada. And the aim of the game really was to keep it pretty dignified, which obviously we're going to talk about, the match versus Belgium compared to the match versus Croatia. Maybe the level of dignity might have oscillated a little bit in between those two matches. But nonetheless, there's still a third match regardless of Canada's early departure from this World Cup.
Yes.
Oh, let's dive on in. So just to really, really quickly touch on the Belgium match, since it was Canada's first match back at the World Cup in 36 years, which was my entire life. So I'm pretty excited by that.
I wish it was mine as well.
I'm so sorry. I just thought I'd enjoy my youth here. Since Sam's a little bit younger than me, so without him, I get to be the face of youth. Alrighty, so Canada played their first World Cup match in 36 years on Wednesday, and they were obviously facing off against the number 2 ranked team in the world, a heavy favorite for this, particularly a heavy favorite within Group F, and just the competition overall of Belgium. I think despite how conservative we were on our last show, and obviously we talked a lot about our tactics, and then I think John Herdman had different plans, but nonetheless, my first impression from Canada's return to the World Cup was really, really optimistic following that match versus Belgium. Canada did have an early penalty, which was unfortunately saved by a world-class goalkeeper, Thibaut Courtois. But, that was a phenomenal performance where Canada truly dominated Belgium in the first half. And it kind of made the 1-0 result, the 1-0 win for Belgium, I think all the more bitter. Paul, we'll start with you as our guest. What was your impression of Canada from their first match versus Belgium?
You know what? I was disappointed with the result. Canada definitely deserved to get something from the game. The UK commentators over here were absolutely raving about Canada. They were very, very impressed. It took a lot of them by surprise. Not so much me, because I know the quality that Canada has because I've watched this squad develop, but a lot of people were surprised and very, very pleasantly surprised. And I know you said something about transfer speculation around Montreal players. if you listen to the broadcast today over here during the game, the move between Alistair Johnson and Glasgow Celtic's pretty much done and dusted. So I don't know how true that is, but that's how the pundits have been talking here. But no, I thought Canada were great. I thought they were very, very unlucky not to get something from the game. They conceded a bad goal, a simple goal, a goal that you probably shouldn't at that level. And I felt a bit for Fonzie because I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but I think at this World Cup, when a penalty kick has been awarded, the amount of time that passes between the referee awarding that penalty kick and the kick act happening seems to be really long. Now, that plays against the kicker and definitely favours the goalkeeper, right? Because he goes and he puts the ball in the spot. He kind of says something to the kicker. He goes across to the goalkeeper, has a chat with the goalkeeper, and then he goes to the side and then he blows the whistle. And I think the player then feels that I got to go and run and take this kind of quickly. The only player I've seen so composed is the guy from Iran who took the penalty against England. He took forever after the whistle went, and of course he scored. So I felt for Fonzie. He just looked to me not confident as he prepared to take that kick, and probably that he didn't want to, but obviously the player he is and the stature of player he is, he obviously felt he had to shoulder the responsibility, but he didn't look confident.
Yeah, exactly. Hady, what did you make of that first match versus Belgium?
Man, it's very hard to go after Paul because he says
I know. No, and he says it so well.
Exactly. No, but you know what? Yeah, 100%. I think Canada proved that they had their place at that World Cup. A lot of people thought that Canada would get thrashed by Belgium, but also by all the teams in the World Cup. They would lose by 5, 6, 7 goals, and it's not the case. Canada was the better team. It's as simple as that. During that game, Canada was the better team. They dominated Belgium, but experience won at the end of the day. And we talked about the experience and how important it is at the world stage, and that's exactly what Belgium has proven. Now, for Canada, what they had to do is show a bit of humility after that defeat. And that's something that they didn't show, unfortunately. No. And we're going to talk about it a bit later. So that's, unfortunately, I think they just, in a way, thought that they were going to be able to repeat the same performance again and again. Very logically, and it's not the case. You need to prepare. You need to make sure that you neutralize the threats of each team. And unfortunately, it's not something that's done. Like you need to work a lot more after such a performance. Because at the end of the day, and I think Alain was one of the people that said it on my Twitter, saying, you know what? Yes, of course we played a good game. But at the end of the day, we have 0 points, 0 goals scored.
Yeah.
And we haven't done anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's right. Even if it was encouraging, he's right in a way. And I think it was the job of the coaching staff to remind that to the players and to make sure that they still focused. And unfortunately, this wasn't the case.
You think they got a little bit? You think they got a little bit carried away with how well it went the first night?
Yeah.
And, I think especially having seen, Morocco and Belgium faced off against each other before the Canadian match. And although like Belgium is obviously, they have so many world-class players on their squad, any one of them could walk into the Canadian team pretty darn easily. But nonetheless, I think Belgium are going into a really difficult cycle. It seems to be like they don't appear to be up for this World Cup. So while it was a really encouraging performance against like some really top players who are household names, at the same time, I think it might have been a little bit dishonest of a representation of Canada's quality, just because I think Belgium just have yet to show up for this World Cup completely. Yeah, so.
Belgium have been dreadful. They've been dreadful, and I think their peak was 4.5 years ago when they reached the semi-final, and they've done well in qualifying, and I think they qualified probably quite comfortably, but they've been awful.
Yeah, even leading into the World Cup, they were far from fantastic. Even in the nation, Eric talked about it a lot, and he he mentioned as well some concerns, but I don't think any of us expected them to be as poor as they've been. That being said, obviously, it was a really good opportunity for Canada, like Hady said, to show that they did belong on the world stage. Because at the end of the day, if a team doesn't show up, the underdog can certainly step up and give them something to regret, which Canada did not manage to do. And I believe that you both are right that Canada was quite hard done by. But like Hady said, post-match, you recommended Hady some humility from the Canadian side, and perhaps that they, kind of put their heads down and prepare for the next match. But in the post-game presser, John Herdman was asked what he discussed with his squad following that win, where they looked so great but walked away with nothing. And part of John Herdman's discussion of his comments was that he told the players that they were going to go F Croatia. And I think the world, especially Croatian media, kind of took that quote and ran away with it. And it obviously, I think, what did you guys make of that comment, Hady?
Listen, we saw the first pager of the Croatian newspaper
Yeah.
with John Herdman, naked and a Canada flag on his genitals and whatever. They weren't happy at all. The coach Dalic of Croatia wasn't happy at all, saying that it was a lack of respect and stuff like that. And you know what? It galvanized the troops of Dalic. It's as simple as that. They were in a war zone. They were here to fight a war. And instead of motivating his players, and that's something that you can very simply say in the locker room, but you don't need to say it
exactly
in front of the media and publicly. And when you say it publicly, it gives the other effect. It's a counter effect right away, because the other team is galvanized, your team crumbles under the pressure, and unfortunately this is exactly what happened. This is, I think, a big error of communication from John Herdman. He made other errors, but at the end of the day, guys, John Herdman is learning too. Okay, yes, he has a lot of experience in the women's game, and that's great, and that's a very good experience for sure. But we know the visibility that the men's game have, that's a bit bigger than the women's game. So here you have all eyes watching you across the globe, and the pressure is 100 times bigger than what it is in the women's game. And I think he unfortunately wasn't able to withstand that pressure and made that error of judgment. It wasn't in the presser. It was on the pitch. It was really. It
was part of his media comments. I'm not
exactly
sure
media comments at the end of the game. So I think that he was a bit, happy about the performance, and unfortunately he
kind of got carried away.
Yeah, he got carried away again. So everybody's a bit carried away by that good performance against Belgium, but he learned from it. 100%.
No kidding. Well, if he hadn't learned from it before the match, he certainly learned from it by the end of this match.
Yeah,
I actually thought he was unlucky. I mean, he's standing in the middle of the pitch in the heat of the moment, right?
Yeah,
and he's standing with all his squad around him, who had given a fantastic performance that had everybody talking about it, and they walked away from the game with nothing. He had to be massively disappointed. His players had to be massively disappointed. He felt he had to give some kind of inspiring speech to his squad, I guess, and I think that's what he was trying to do. And he probably wasn't even thinking about, hey, somebody's recording this could end up in the front of a newspaper in Croatia. It's probably the last thing in his mind. Some journalist in Croatia has picked up on it, it's gone in front of the paper, and all of a sudden, bang. So I think he's been really, really unlucky.
Yeah, potentially for sure. Undoubtedly, that was undoubtedly an emotional moment, like you said. But at the same time, I think, like Hady said, the level of scrutiny at the World Cup, there is no higher level of scrutiny in soccer. So
yeah, I just want to say also, Paul, I think Paul, you look at these comments and you remember, 20, 30, 40 years ago when these comments were flying around after each game, right? This was completely normal back then, right?
But you
back
suggesting I remember 40 years ago?
Yeah, I remember 40 years ago. So yeah. So if I do, you do, right? Sorry for my voice, guys. So all I'm saying is, yeah, back then it was normal because you didn't have social media. You didn't have social media. You didn't have the visibility that everything that the game has right now, right? So right now, doing these kinds of comments right away are on the front page, right away are reached by
Yeah.
millions of people all across the globe. And that's why nowadays you cannot make these kinds of errors anymore.
Yep.
Before it was okay, not anymore, unfortunately.
Well, okay is probably like before you could get away with it is probably the better way to say it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they talked about it here. The pundits talked about it here before the game, and they were fairly dismissive of the whole thing. A couple of ex-players. One was Martin Keown. If I'd heard that comment and I was playing for England, it wouldn't have bothered me, right? And they were pretty dismissive about the whole thing, like a storm in a teacup. And I honestly think myself, and it's maybe an age thing, it's maybe a generational thing, storm in a teacup for me.
Yeah. I my opinion is like definitely it was disrespectful to the Croatian team, especially given that the Croatian team were runners up in 2018. So I think, yes, like it certainly was not a respectful way to talk about them. But at the same time, like I don't think, say, if those comments had not been made or not been made public, I don't think Croatia would have showed up any less prepared or any less up for it today. Yeah. So nonetheless, that was kind of the atmosphere that we had going into this match. We had a lot of eyes on Canada after a really encouraging performance and after some questionable media comments. And I think we were all really excited to see what Canada could do, especially given that Morocco had beaten Belgium earlier in the day. It did really blow the group wide open for Canada to potentially look at moving on. So let's take a look here at the lineup that John Herdman presented us for the Croatia match. And we do have a picture of it.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, we have the captain, Atiba Hutchinson. And this was a milestone match for him because he is 39 years old. His national team career is like 19 years and almost 11 months old, and he made his 100th cap with this appearance, which was massive. He obviously has been with Canada through some of its darkest times over the past 2 decades, and he stuck around long enough for us to make it to a World Cup, so thrilled for him, of course. Nonetheless, the remaining players were Milan Borjan, Alistair Johnston, Kamal Miller, Stephen Vittoria, Steph Eustachio, Tejan Buchanan, Kyle Larin, Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, and Richie Larea. So Kyle Larin took Junior Hoylett's place in the starting 11. And also Canada, once we saw them line up, it wound up being a 4-4-2 that they started the match with. And I think, like in past discussions, we had generally agreed that was Canada's best formation overall, especially against strong competition, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So any thoughts on the lineup overall?
I liked it. That's exactly the kind of lineup that I wanted to see. I wouldn't have chosen Richie Larea on the left side. I would have gone with Adek Ugbe because, like, you need a lefty. Mm-hmm. Even if Larea was really good against Belgium. So that's the only thing that I would have changed before the game. I think we needed that hold-up play from Larin up front. And I think he was pretty good in the first half, holding up the ball. I liked what he showed us. So no, for me, the lineup was okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Paul,
I think the lineup was fine, and the guys who did so well in the first game, it would have been very harsh. I know he switched Hoylett, but it would have been very harsh to leave any of those guys out that done so well. The problem today was they met a team who were motivated and are probably the best technicians on the planet. The Croatian team, they don't come much technically superior than the Croats, and they just did too much.
Yeah, for sure. But with that being said, Canada did get some early joy in the match
Yeah.
because after 36 years plus one match, lo and behold, Alphonso Davies made history with the first men's goal at a World Cup for Canada. After the Canadians were under some early pressure from Croatia, Milian Borjan sent the ball long up the field to Kyle Larin. Kyle Larin took an excellent control and passed it off to Tajon Buchanan, and Tajon Buchanan placed an inch-perfect cross as Davies made a 60-yard sprint into the 18-yard box to put the header into the Croatian net, and that was a dream start. Guys, is there any more iconic player to score Canada's first men's goal at a World Cup?
No, it's perfect.
No, that's perfect.
Like, is there a better story?
Great story,
No,
but you know what? And I think this is massive. Not only Davis scoring, but Canada having their first goal is massive because at least you have that's already done. This objective, this weight that we had over our shoulders saying we never scored in a World Cup, it's done and dusted. It's done, right? Now we can concentrate on the other objectives.
Like getting a point.
Exactly. And that was the main objectives of this World Cup. And we talked about it quite a few times here on The Ball is Round. Is first of all, score a goal. Second of all, get a point, right?
Yeah.
So at least you have 50% of your objectives that are reached. And I think that's really, really good. Now, Davies scoring is amazing. Tajon Buchanan, that cross, as you said, inch perfect. Larin with the hold-up play before, all positives on that play, all positives. And the only thing is that did it cause a bit of overconfidence within the team? That's my question for you guys.
I mean, I don't know. I would sincerely hope it didn't. I don't think, especially for some of the players that Canada has on their team who do play in Europe and who would definitely be intimately familiar with, tournament scenarios like these. I don't think it should have because these are intelligent players. They know full well that no matter how motivated they are and how much spunk they bring to the game, those Croatian players are massively talented. Like Paul said, some of the best technicians that you can ask for. So I think maybe not overconfidence, but definitely just the emotional high might have made Canada a little more susceptible.
Yeah, I think it comes down to nice as well and how you manage certain situations at certain times. And, I think scoring first maybe sort of was euphoric and lifted the Canadians into a different stratosphere, if you like. They just before I think the Croatians equalised, they went through a 5-minute spell where Canada looked kind of ragged and they looked as if maybe they were losing concentration. I think, Hady, you pointed it out on a tweet about Larea kicking the ball out of play twice when he could have cleared upfield. I think they didn't manage that particular part of the game well. But Canada are babies at this level.
Exactly.
Babies at this level, right? And you can't really. How often do they play quality European teams? Not very often. There's a lot of learning still to do, and it's harder. It's harder to get games against quality European teams now because every continent is every continent's having a Nations League, right? So Canada needs to get more games against quality European opposition and learn how to win against them, and that's a huge thing.
I agree, but you know what? I come back to that play, right? For maybe 6 minutes, Croatia had the ball. For 6 minutes, pressure was mounting. Twice, Larea had a chance to clear the ball. Twice. It doesn't take 6 games against world champions to know that you have to clear the ball. I'm sorry, this is not about experience. This is stupid play from Richie Larea. He was awesome in the first game against Belgium. I'm not going to take that away from him. But during that game, that first goal, the equalizer, is 100% his. No, not 100%. But maybe 50% his fault. Because if the pressure was relieved, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have seen that through ball for the equalizer. I'm pretty sure. So, it arrives at a point where players have to learn from these mistakes, and it's good that they're making the mistakes in 2022 and not in 2026, because that's where they're here to learn, right? You need to learn now, so in 2026 you don't make the same kind of mistakes. So that's going to be very important. Second of all, you talk about the experience. I completely understand that nowadays you can't have a lot of friendlies against European teams, but friendlies are never really very important games either way. So friendlies are not going to change anything in the progression of a team. What they need to do is win the Gold Cup. That's already experience enough. Start by winning the Gold Cup and winning against, a couple of times against Mexico and against the US. Already you've done a lot more that you've done.
I don't know though. I kind of agree with Paul because in CONCACAF, the CONCACAF style of play is just so particular. And I mean, each federation definitely has some unique flares. But when you go to an international tournament like the World Cup, it's no secret that the majority of the nations that are going to be there are European nations. So to me, it is still valuable to get that experience, even if, like you said, when it's a friendly and it doesn't mean as much, then undoubtedly the level might not be quite as high as normal.
Of course.
But I think it is really valuable experience to face off against teams that you're not used to, teams that bring something different to the table. Because I mean, we've seen the US, we've seen Mexico, Canada has played them so many times.
I agree, but you need to learn to have the experience of winning.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you there.
We haven't had the experience of winning a tournament, and that's something that we need to do. And that's already a big step on the learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
It's to win a tournament. Start by doing that, and then maybe we'll get invited to the next Copa America, because they always have a guest.
Well, look, I think, I mean, and that's a point as well, because when you perform well at a World Cup, you do get invites, right? You do get invited to the likes of maybe a Copa America. I can remember Cameroon doing well. All of a sudden, England invite them for a friendly. Those are the sorts of things that can happen. Canada are now a viable opponent. A viable opponent. It might be vile. If they'd been a bit more vile at certain times today, it might have served them better, right? But Canada are now a viable opponent, and there's an opportunity where they'll be invited across to Europe against some of the top nations to play, and I definitely think they can learn from that. The United States for years have been getting those gigs, and I think it's helped them improve as well.
Yeah, 100%. But anyway, we kind of started talking about it, but nonetheless, let's forge ahead, because there were no shortage of goals in this match, even though we just talked about the only one that was really fun. So I think Croatia did definitely have a few moments where they kind of sounded the alarm. There was a goal that was initially that was correctly ruled off for offside, where the ball got picked off, and in midfield transition, the midfield simply could not keep up with Croatia's players, and Kramaric, although he played the ball home, was he wasn't offside, but another player in the build-up was. And then, of course, that was kind of a similar result to how the actual equalizer played out. It was kind of a similar style of play, except it originated from a throw-in. But with that being said, in that first half particularly, and looking at that goal, did you guys have any concerns about Canada's midfield? I think we were bound to be concerned regardless, because of the quality of those players. But like, watching it happen, did you have concerns about Canada's midfield holding up?
Go ahead, Paul. This is yours.
Go to town.
Yeah. I mean, when Croatia started to roll around about maybe 25 minutes, I started to get concerned at that stage, and I think maybe what you'll see, the Canadian team is there was maybe a little bit of naivety. They're maybe a little bit too nice. When South American teams and certain CONCACAF teams as well, I might say, and some European teams get into a little bit of trouble like that, they know how to break the game up. They know how to, interrupt plays. They know how to
some of that gamesmanship.
Absolutely, gamesmanship, and I don't think Canada looked capable of doing that today.
No, you're right. I think they did lack a bite. Yeah. Although,
But I agree with you. I agree with you, Eve, that the midfield had a big problem. That was, uh, I love Atiba Hutchinson, and he's a great player, and he did so well against Belgium. Uh, I don't think that it was his best game, first of all. So I'm not going to talk about his age, because I don't think it's only about the age. I think it wasn't his day all around. So it wasn't his day. He was a bit slow. They were targeting him. And if you look at the right hand side of the defense, not completely the far right, but the right in the middle of the pitch,
yeah.
it was Atiba Hutchinson and Steven Vittoria. So put some speed there, and
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
win, and you'll cause problems. And that's exactly what they did. Just directly in the middle of the pitch on the right hand side, everything was going through there. Everything was going through there. And whenever on the second goal, what we had is Richie Laryea not defending at all, and causing that for me that the 2-against-1 in front of Miller.
Yeah.
And of course, it gives you the second goal, a great goal by Livaja. I don't know how to pronounce it, but
Livaya.
great goal for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, that goal as well, it originated from something I think that we would consider pretty uncharacteristic, because it was Alphonso Davies who kind of had the ball picked off of him. And then that transition, like you said, it was just too swift for the midfield to handle. And as well, it appeared, Stefan Eustáquio, he went down in some discomfort and had to get treatment in the first half. And, we're going to talk about it later, but we didn't see him in the second half. So it is also possible that they left, because we know that Stefan Eustáquio can definitely bolt back and defend. We've seen him do it many times, but it is possible that he was also left out there and not 100% fitness, which he wasn't 100% fitness going into the World Cup anyway. So it was pretty disappointing. On the second goal, is there anything that you guys wanted to analyze, or was it pretty similar for your opinions?
Richie Laryea, Alphonso Davies, and then Richie Laryea being completely caught out of position.
I did feel bad because, Kamal Miller was able to get a slide tackle in, but unfortunately, of course, the ball just bounced to a Croatian player, so it really didn't do any good at the end of the day.
We're not going to talk about the fourth one, are we?
We are. We have to.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll get to it. But we have to. We would be remiss if we ignored it. I don't think we'd be honest podcasters if we ignored it.
Of course.
Yeah. So nonetheless, obviously, Croatia, had some really, after, like Paul said, they really picked it up and enjoyed some sustained possession, and definitely took advantage of those moments where Canada's concentration lapsed, and they brought a 2-1 lead into the half after 2 late goals in the 36th and 44th minutes. And undoubtedly, John Herdman's team talk had just gotten torn up between that time. Coach Hady, what would you have said going into that locker room to get the team motivated for a big second half?
To just concentrate on the task ahead, that everything is not lost. Yes, we're losing 2-1, but concentrate. And I would have made some tactical changes. He did, by doing a 3-5-2. For me, it's not the tactical changes that I would have done. Removing Kyle Larin from the game, I don't think that was the good decision. Do I talk about just what I would have said, or do I talk about my tactical changes also?
Well, I was going to ask.
I don't want to go ahead.
I don't care. That was going to be my next question. I was going to direct it to Paul, but by all means, I'm sure Paul will have some stuff to say that you didn't say. So go for it, Hady.
Exactly. So for me, there should have been 2 changes. First of all, Atiba and Richie Laryea. For me, Richie Laryea didn't have a place on the pitch anymore, so it would have been Sam Atekugbe coming in. And second of all, I would have removed Atiba. But unfortunately, I do understand John Herdman. Steven Eustáquio was injured, so he put Osorio in. And I think that's a bold move from John Herdman. I don't think that was a bad move, but I would would have removed Atiba Hutchinson, because moving to a 3-5-2 formation, you needed more defensive power in the midfield. So I would have removed Hutchinson and I would have put Piet in. As simple as that. We needed that number 6, that pure number 6. Yes, a lot of people are going to say, yeah, he's not at that level and everything, but unfortunately, you didn't have anybody else. You need a defensive mid. You don't have anybody else. Atiba is not doing it anymore. Eustáquio is injured. You're not going to put Fraser. You're going to put Steve.
Well, he's not. Fraser's not a defensive midfielder anyway. He's more of a number 8.
Yeah, but he used Herdman uses him as a.
He does. He does. But I mean, in most of the matches where Herdman has used him as well, like, it's not been as high a level.
I agree.
Well, I mean, Canada's never played against this high of a level, period. So let's be honest. Nonetheless, alrighty. So that was Coach Hady's changes. Paul, what changes would you have made to the Canadian side?
I think Hady. It's hard to disagree with Hady's comments. Actually, it would have been nice to see Sam get a run and see how he actually did in that company, or against that type of opposition. But Atiba, and I know, Hady, you said you weren't going to talk about his age, but I think the fact that he's kind of 39 and he's still playing, which is quite phenomenal, and a credit to the player himself. You got to manage his time, and he probably should have been replaced, and that's probably all I would have to say about it.
Right on.
We have a question from Alain that's on the subject. Okay. If you want to, Eve.
Herdman's post-game comments surprised me. Almost feels like he let Atiba decide how long he wanted to play. Sign of respect or complete World Cup madness. I mean, we can't disrespect Atiba for the amount of time that he has given to Canada Soccer when Canada Soccer was not behaving seriously as a federation. For the amount of time and effort and energy and just patience, for want of any other word. But that being said, I would hope that the coach would be the one making the decisions, certainly. Period. I would sincerely hope that.
Yeah, I didn't. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it depends on your style of coaching, right? And Herdman, decided to have a style where it's based on a brotherhood, on a togetherness. He created that dressing room atmosphere where we're all brothers and everything, and it sticks. He's stuck with that mentality altogether by asking Atiba, whenever you don't feel like it anymore, whenever you think that you're too tired, please let me know. And it is some sort of sign of respect. And again, it all depends on your objective for that World Cup. What was the objective for that World Cup? I think that the objective for that World Cup is to give a last farewell to those warriors that have done Canada Soccer, that have raised Canada's flag so high during those dark years, like Milan Borjan, like Atiba Hutchinson, like Junior Hoylett. And that's the whole goal of that World Cup, and learn at that stage. So if it was in 2026, I would have agreed with you, Eve, that, you know what, it's all about the result. But right now, for me, it's more about the journey.
Yeah, you know what? There is different management styles, as you say, Hady, and it might sound, I think, to me a little bit picky to pick on this, to criticize John Herdman for, because I think John Herdman's one of the best things that's ever happened to Canadian football, probably men's and women's, to be fair. So it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit belittling to kind of, pick on something like that, given the job that the guy has done, which has been absolutely fun. And I realize he's not maybe everybody's cup of tea, but who else could have gotten the results that he did? And, I just think that I tend to agree, with what Eve said as well. I mean, the coach, you hope the coach is making doing what his mind is telling him to do. Hoping that he's got, the authority to make his own decision about things. But like I say, there's different ways, different management styles. And he's obviously, if he felt strongly that Atiba should have been withdrawn earlier on in the game, I'm sure he would have done it. But for whatever reason, he stayed on the pitch.
Fair enough. All right. So looking at our second half of the match, we had two subs to start the half. As Hady mentioned, Jonathan Osorio came on to replace Stephen Eusakio, and Ismail Kone also came on, and Kyle Larin was the other player subbed off. So, and as once again Hady mentioned, Canada switched to 3 at the back. So it was a more traditional 3-5-2 formation. So I know, Hady, you were certainly surprised to see that Atiba remained out there as well as Richie Larea, and I think, Paul, you were pretty much in agreement, and I was definitely surprised to see Atiba out there as well. I did briefly see some comments from John Herdman post-match, and he seemed to think things were going really well, and I was like, okay. Okay. That was the polite way of my thought, but nonetheless, and Canada, once again, they did start that half pretty brightly. They were buzzing around the half. They did call the Croatian keeper into action a little bit, and the Croatian defenders. But once again, obviously, Croatia's quality was going to win out. In the 55th minute, they sounded the alarm once again when Luka Modric played a beautiful cutback pass to a wide-open Kramaric, and Borjan was called upon to make a point-blank world-class save to keep his side in the match. Shortly after that as well, Junior Hoylett did come in, and at long last, Hady's least favorite player of the day was replaced, Richie Larea. But unfortunately, that was not going to prove to be enough. Before we get on to Croatia's third goal, any thoughts on what you saw, or was it kind of more of a carbon copy of the first half? For me, it felt really similar.
It was very similar. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
No, just at that point, I was kind of starting to fear the worst, and it was like, obviously, I think this Canadian team is always at their best going forward, and I think they were obviously going to always try and keep going forward to try and get back in the game. And I could just see all the big holes appearing at the back if they did that. And at that stage, I was fearing the worst. I would almost have accepted a 4-1 defeat once that third goal went in. I know it's what we got eventually, but, they were able to pick Canada off pretty easily because they're so technically good in their experience, and they're a good team. They just did too much.
Yeah, but Canada in the second half, they just tried to equalize. So they didn't really care if they were losing 2-1 or 3-1 because they would, or 4-1.
Yeah, a loss period.
Of course,
exactly.
Of course.
They were eliminated. So for me, the 4-1 scoreline is it's the same as a 2-1 scoreline. It's as simple as that. It's not. Yeah,
it just less
flattering on paper.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? At the end of the day, look at Iran. They lost 6-2 and then they won 2-0. So at the end of the day, they might qualify with a 6-2 defeat. So at the end of the day, the result on a 3-game group stage is not very, very important, in my opinion. Now, Canada was trying to score that goal. Unfortunately, I think that removing Kyle Larin again didn't help the team at all, because having that big man up front would have helped so much. Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, Tejan Buchanan, even Hoylett coming in. I think that would have made a big difference. I still don't understand that. I like Kone coming in. I think he was
great. He was lively.
He was very lively.
Yeah. He made some interesting turns, I thought, off those midfielders who we talked about, being so dominant.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was able to contribute something, I think, bodes well for Kone, bodes poorly for Montreal.
Exactly. I would have liked to see Piet with Kone and Osorio. I think that.
What have you guys heard about Kone as regards transfer news? Because there was something on here during the game.
There's all sorts of various English teams that have been interested in him. Yeah.
Watford, I think, lately.
Watford is the latest one to join the line.
Exactly. We're going to talk about it later, right?
We are going to,
We're going to talk about it later. So yeah. So no, but you know what? Yeah, you're right, Eve. Nothing much different.
Nothing much changed. Yeah. No, exactly. For me, it was Croatia were stretching their legs, and I think we were starting to see some fatigue from more and more of the Canadian players as well, as they struggled to keep up, because Croatia did have a fair bit of the ball in the second half as well.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, they were willing to heap the misery on Canada. Like Hady said, a 2-1 win is technically the same as a 4-1 win in these circumstances, but let's face it, every time you concede a goal, it's not exactly fun.
It hurts.
It does. I'm just trying to think. So what had happened here was Atiba on the third goal. Atiba had passed the ball to well, he attempted to pass the ball, but it was intercepted. Croatia was able to break really quickly, and nobody was able to close down Perisic, who bolted up that pitch. Quite frankly, he moved really quickly for a player of his age. He crossed the ball to Kramaric, who had been a thorn in Canada's side all day. Kramaric was able to take a really deft touch in the 18-yard box, and he opened up a better angle for him to shoot. And boom, it was 3-1. And my opinion at this moment was that there was no way back for Canada.
No.
Yeah.
They didn't show much.
What a finish! How composed was he?
Yeah.
Oh, for me, it was the touch before the shot. Just man, it was really quality. I gotta say,
touch, the pause, the finish, incredible.
Yeah,
really incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah. A great player.
A very, very great player. Very great player. I feel like he sometimes kind of falls a little bit to the wayside of like your Modric's and your Perisic's and your Kovacic's of the world. But to me he was on another level today. So full credit.
They've got too many itches, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a good few. Yeah, I was really grateful when our fourth goal scorer was by a different name. So with that being said, I think at this point the result was a pretty foregone conclusion. Of course, Canada did still continue to move forward in hopes of at least, narrowing that gap. I think probably just from a dignity standpoint more than anything. And although they hovered around the box, for me, I thought the defending of the crosses done by the Croatian defenders was outstanding. They got so many heads on the ball as Canada was trying to cross the ball in. I thought their aerial defending was really wonderful. Do you guys make anything of that?
Yeah, apart from Dejan Lovren, because he's an ex-Liverpool.
No, for me, Canada kept crossing it in. Every time they crossed it, my God, it just pinged right out off the head of someone. I said, okay, we're done. Never mind. We're done. And last but not least, in stoppage time, Croatia poured salt into the wound as the ball came back to Kamal Miller. Kamal Miller had a nightmare moment in which he did not control the ball that came back to him. He looked like he totally should have. Ball rolled behind him, and two Croatian players took off with only Milan Borjan standing between them and a fourth goal. Unsurprisingly, substitute Lovro Meyer sealed a 4-1 result for the adversary.
A good player, Meyer. He plays with Rennes in France,
Oh, yeah?
and I've watched him quite a few times. A very good player. Now I know he's being called as the Modric replacement, but he's not. He's nowhere near his quality.
Oh, I mean, Luka Modric is
exactly. Don't forget that Chan is reminding us, just in case we forgot, that Canada was playing a Ballon d'Or.
Exactly. Oh my God, that was about to come out of my mouth.
Exactly. So Ballon d'Or winner, of course. So I just want to talk about Kamal Miller. Yes, he made that big error, but even losing 3-1, I don't think he had a very bad game. I think he was okay. Against Belgium, he had an amazing game. I think his stock rose in those two games. I think he's a better player than he was just by playing those two games. And yes, he made a mistake, but he's going to learn from it. That's for sure.
Guys, there's a few players whose stock are rising quite incredibly, and Canada are winning a lot of friends over here at the moment through their approach and the way they've approached these games and the way they've played and their positive attitude. And the comments have been passed several times by well-respected pundits over here in the UK that we're going to see a lot of these players or more of these players playing in Europe and probably England as well. So, definitely they've been gushing. The pundits have been gushing and gushing about Canada. It's been really, you guys would love it if you could hear what they were saying. They've been really, really complimentary, and deservedly so.
Thank you.
What do you think about David being linked with Man U, Paul?
I actually hadn't heard that. Is that true?
I had seen it in passing on the internet, but not a whole lot.
It is a rumor that's been going around. They want to sign Jonathan David, and I would have loved to see him there.
That would be interesting. I think he's been a bit unlucky in the World Cup in
Yeah,
that he hasn't had much service. So we
Mm.
yeah,
haven't seen the best of Jonathan David in this World Cup, unfortunately, because he's got a lot more to contribute than what we've seen.
yeah,
But
Mhm.
yeah, it'd be great to see him going to Manchester United, especially if he bangs in a few goals.
yeah, for sure he
Well,
will.
they've got an open striker spot now, don't they? After events
They
of this
do,
week.
they do, and if Montreal want to borrow a sort of clapped out Portuguese winger, I know where there is one.
He's not a Manchester United player anymore. So
he's playing with
I know, I know.
he's
No,
playing with
I think he got
unattached
the.
FC.
exactly, he's playing with unattached FC, and I don't know if you
Uh,
guys saw that, but Lionel Messi seems to have an agreement with Miami, Inter
yeah,
Miami. I said it maybe 5 years ago that we would see Ronaldo and Messi playing together in MLS.
could
The
happen.
Okay.
dream, the dream is
Mm.
possible.
It
I'll
could
believe it when I
happen.
see it.
It could
Mm.
happen.
Could
Yep.
happen.
But back to obviously World Cup. So with that 4-1 result, Canada was eliminated from its first World Cup in 36 years, alas. You guys, anything to add on the match? Anything to add on, say, maybe John Herdman's coaching of this match or his management of the match? Or will we move on and talk about Morocco?
We
I
said
think Harry.
everything. Yeah, we said
Yeah,
everything.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think Hady said it earlier too. I mean, it's a learning process for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
this, and including John Herdman,
Yeah.
and I think there's still plenty of reason to kind of look forward to the last game against Morocco, and the Moroccans need to win it. Remember, right? This will be no
Yep.
dead rubber, and the Canadians won't want to come back without any points either. So it's another big game to look forward to, and it's another game where Canada can. Let's face it, Canada can get something out of this one. Morocco are not
Mm-hmm.
unbeatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were really good against the
Oh, they
Belgians.
were. They
They
were
were
good.
good.
They
They
were
were
really
good.
good.
And they
They were
and they
good.
held Croatia to a 0-0 draw.
But maybe they will like they need to get points if they want to qualify. So they're not qualified. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough game for Canada.
Yeah,
And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that John Herdman is gonna play the players that haven't had a minute yet. So I'm
yeah.
pretty sure
Maybe.
we're gonna see maybe Piet and some other players that will
Maybe
get
the only thing I would
on.
say about the Morocco Croatia game, and you're right to
Mm-hmm.
point out they got a point, is I think they got Croatia at the right time. First game was
Yeah,
Yeah.
always a bit
Yeah.
cagey. And we scored in the first minute, which meant they had to up their game right away. And
yeah,
Uh-huh.
and that never happened when they played Morocco, right?
No,
yeah.
no, and that's the thing as well. That's probably through a lot of John Herdman's tactics right out the window as well, going ahead so quickly. But I'm
Possibly,
not.
yeah. That's a fair point, yeah.
Yeah.
In transition, that's a good transition. Thanks, Eve, for
Mhm.
Alain's question. He thinks that Herdman will bank his World Cup exposure for club opportunity in 2023. All deservedly so. So who do we want coaching us in 2026?
It's a good
Columbus
question.
Crew coach Wilfried Nancy. So we're going to talk about Wilfried Nancy part later. But let's talk about what he said about Herdman. Do you think that Herdman is
Well,
going to go at the club level?
well, let's be honest. Canada Soccer is not exactly like coming off as a glowing organization right now,
Yeah.
with their management, on both the men's and the women's side of things. So, to be quite frank, like if I were John Herdman and the right opportunity presented itself to get in somewhere with better organization and less of a headache and less of a finagling, I would seriously consider it.
Yeah. I don't think
He,
he's going to leave.
he's a guy that's getting a lot more publicity over here
Yeah.
now than he ever did before, right? So everybody's all over it, and everybody's talking about, his motivational style and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And he will be on the radar of some clubs. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean to say he's going to move here. From what he has always said about Canada, and he talks about Canada as his country, and why not? I mean, he's been there long enough now too, but. He's very, very invested. I think he likes living in Canada. I think his family are settled there. And I think there's a good chance he'd stay there. But he'll probably want more influence within Canada soccer as well. And he probably deserves to have also.
Yeah, we have a very disappointed Luis Miguel Martinez here saying that he's very disappointed, and we finished first in the qualification process, but But yeah, you know what? It's as we said, you learn from it, and
Yeah.
that's important. That's very
Yeah.
important.
No, I mean, I think this group was always going to end this way.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
exactly.
you know what? The qualification was a huge success. Let's not
Yeah,
forget
mhm,
that. But
exactly,
what's just happened is a step up in class, and nobody can
exactly.
deny
mhm,
that.
I agree. I
exactly.
agree.
So, with that being said, of course, there is still one match left for Canada to play. For let's be honest, it's mainly for pride by this point, and maybe for certain players to show what they can offer to other clubs around the world. And they're coming in, as we said, to a Morocco side that had an excellent match against Belgium earlier today. But they are also in a position where they definitely need to pick up some points in order to advance in the World Cup.
Yeah,
So, they've obviously been really, really defensively sound. Morocco, they held both Croatia and Belgium to a clean sheet. And they also have a lot of quality in their squad, although they are missing a few important players through injury. Morocco has Ashraf Hakimi, Hakim Ziyech, Sofiane Boufal, Youssef and Nezri. They also have a Montrealer in their squad with Yassine Bono, who was born in Montreal.
yeah. Man, he missed the game today. He
He
wasn't.
did.
It's so weird because he was singing the national anthem and then he wasn't on the pitch anymore. So I
Like,
I love
just
the
don't
guy.
apparently he was ill.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah,
really?
Very,
I
yeah,
love the
very.
guy.
that's what I
I
saw.
love the guy Amrabat that plays for them in front.
Yeah, that's just. I
Mm.
was gonna talk about him.
Fantastic player.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
really, really good. Amrabat as a defensive midfielder. You know that he used to play as an offensive midfielder before,
Oh wow.
Oh,
and
really?
he was switched to defensive midfielder because he's so tenacious
Mm.
and very good at ball winning. So very good for his career. Yeah, he's done wonders for this.
And
Yeah.
Morocco.
what about the ball? I think it was Ziyech played back for the second goal.
Oh,
Oh
that
wow,
was beautiful,
wow.
wasn't it?
Ziyech is a hell of a player.
He
A
is.
hell of a player. When he wants to play, because sometimes he doesn't want to, but when he
Mm.
wants to play, he's one of the best players in the world.
I remember when he was playing for Ajax and they made that
Yeah,
really good run in Champions League a few years ago. He
final, no?
was
Semifinals.
semi-final, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's obviously I think when he really, really burst onto the international scene, and then he made his big move to Chelsea where it's kind of been
Yeah.
so-so. But nonetheless, any thoughts, guys, on what we will expect from Morocco? I know, Hady, you mentioned that probably we'll see some players who we haven't seen yet. John Herdman's kind of going to give them that opportunity.
Yeah,
But any thoughts
100%.
on anything tactically? Will we see any real experimentation? Any?
For Morocco, no.
No, no.
No,
Okay.
from Canada. From Canada.
No, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
From
Morocco?
Canada.
Okay.
Morocco are in this to win this for sure,
Exactly.
100%. And
Exactly.
I think Canada will want to win because they'll want to go out with a better momentum than
No, for
three
sure.
losses.
Canada will want at least a point, right? The
Yeah,
second
that's
objective. The second objective, that's all they
yes.
want.
I
That
actually
point.
think Canada. I actually think Canada will get a point against Morocco.
Oh yeah.
Stick them in that guy. Right? I do actually. I think they will get a point.
Now, if
Okay.
they get a point, if Morocco gets a point, they qualified, right? So,
Yeah, so it's sufficient for them.
yeah.
But all the same, I don't think it would be very wise for Morocco to sit back and park the bus to stop the game.
No, but if we're able to be good defensively and still create some danger, Morocco is not going to give itself away and just goes gung ho towards the goal, right?
No.
So they're just gonna try to play it out, see if they have any opportunities, and score whenever they have some, but they're not going to be just playing to get some goals. They're just going to play and see if they have opportunities. So
Fair
it's
enough.
as simple as that. And we have a good question from Chan asking if we're going to see St. Clair in goal. No, I don't think so.
No, I would have to agree because I think this will be for like it is for the few other players that you mentioned. I think this will be Milan Borjan's swan song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would expect for him to get the full run out of respect to him.
Maybe he'll be here for the next Gold Cup, yes, but I don't think
possibly.
he'll be here. I don't think he'll be here for the next World
Yeah,
Cup. So.
a World Cup. Oh no, I would be really surprised. But a World Cup always feels like a time when, like, after a World Cup, it always feels like that's when so many players take their retirement. So
yeah, Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I think Herdman will make some changes, but I don't think he's going to make wholesale changes because I still
No,
think he believes he can win this game against Morocco, and he'll want to win the game if he possibly can. It's not as important as getting points to progress in the World Cup, but it's still important to come back on a high.
of course, I completely understand. But look, Eustáquio is injured. Atiba, you're not going to give a third start in a row to Atiba. So I'm pretty sure he's going to come in the game as a substitute, but he's not going to be a starter. I would doubt that very much. So already here in midfield, you're not going to have any players that have started the first two games, right? So already there's something that could be done. Are you going to play? Maybe you're going to play Steven Vittoria because he looked good. A lot of people were saying he's slow and stuff, and I don't agree with that. I think he had a decent game today. So I think Vittoria, you'll see him. Bian Borjan, you'll see him. But in the midfield, you're going to have some changes. That's for sure.
Yeah. To be honest, I would not be surprised to see possibly both Osorio and Kone start.
With Piet?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think Hoylett will start too.
That's a good point. But for me, I think both Osorio and Kone looked pretty good when they came in. And maybe we could see Hoylett start on the wings because he is also capable of playing there.
True.
Yeah.
Coney's definitely playing. He's in the shop window. He's definitely playing.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I think this is definitely his moment to shine. And he's obviously been called upon in both World Cup matches, which I think says a lot. And Stephanie Eustáquio, he may be carrying some discomfort, and hopefully, if he is, John Herdman won't risk him for a match, which at the end of the day is just for pride.
I agree. Guys, I want to comment on Alain's last message to us. We could finish with the same number of wins as 1986 with the worst goal differential. I want Paul to start because I think everybody knows what I'm going to say. So let's start with Paul. What do you think about that?
I watched Canada in 1986, and what we're seeing now compared to 1986 is like, I don't know, chalk and cheese. It's just completely different. It's just not a valid. It's just not a valid comparison. And the only other thing I would say about 1986, it is probably not the way to look at a football match anyway, but they very, very nearly got a point against France in 1986. I think Jean-Pierre Papin scored with about 10 minutes to go. But if Jean-Pierre Papin had scored 75% of his chances that night, there's no way we're looking at a worse goal difference this year than what it would have been in 86, because France should have won that game 5 or 6-0. But chalk and cheese. You know what? If that happens and we do, it doesn't mean anything to me. Canadian football has gone on leaps and bounds. There were nobody talking about Canadian football in 86. The way, and I'm talking about sitting here in the UK, there was nobody talking about Canadian football in 1986 the way they're talking about Canadian football now. Believe me.
There we go.
Thank you. So I hope this answer. I'm not going to say anything else because
I think Paul summed it up pretty well.
Exactly. So this is for you, Alain.
Alrighty, guys, are we ready to move on to the CF Montreal?
Yeah, please.
All right. Cool. So, I think it's been an open secret that there are multiple players who can and will be on the move for Montreal coming up after this World Cup. So first things first, probably the biggest rumor of all is that following the Belgium match, Manuel Veth dropped the info that the Scottish side, Celtic FC, are in advanced talks to sign Alistair Johnston. Like Paul said, that seems to be all but done and dusted. Do we like this move for Alistair Johnston? I really like it. But how do you feel? Let's see, Paul.
It is a good move for him. And Alistair Johnston is the sort of player, his profile, the way he plays the game, the way he likes to get forward, absolutely suits Celtic FC down to the ground. He's absolutely made for Celtic.
And he works so hard on both sides of the ball as well, which I think will be really appreciated.
And I think he had two very good games in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Against Belgium, yes, he made some mistakes, but in general, he had a very good game. And today, I don't think he had a bad game either. So So yeah, no, that's going to be very important for him. Guys, I have a question for you. Do you know who is the right back right now for Celtic FC?
It's the
Yeah,
Croatian player whose name I can't pronounce.
exactly.
Exactly.
He was playing today, right?
Exactly. It's Josip Juranovic that was the right back today for Croatia, and he looked not very good today. It's maybe if there is one player that wasn't really good on the Croatian side, it's for me. It was him. So it's interesting, very interesting to see Alistair Johnson.
The other thing I'd throw in there is Celtic are making good signings at the minute. This guy Ange Postecoglou, the new coach, he's done a great job, and he's brought people in that nobody's heard of in the UK, the Japanese guys, etc. And he knows them well. He's brought them in. They've done well. Celtic are going well, and I think it's a good move all around.
Yeah, as well, Alistair Johnson, he does have Scottish heritage as well. So
no, Northern Irish.
Northern Irish.
Eve,
oh my God, are you serious?
Eve, what did you do, man? What did you do?
Where did I read that?
His mum comes from 6 miles from where I'm sitting right now. And I'm raging because Northern Ireland missed out on him. He should have been playing right back for Northern Ireland.
No, Canada's good. Thank you, Canada.
We're very happy. Why did I think that he had?
I don't know, Eve.
I have no idea why I thought that. I'm so sorry, and I'm so grateful you were here to correct me.
You know what? Scotland's only 17 miles away too, by the way.
There we go.
You got to be a good swimmer.
maybe he's got a cousin then across the channel. Oh God.
There's a good discussion going on right now on our comments between Alain and Chan. Alain asking if the Scottish Premier League is really a step forward for development, like in his development, better than MLS. And Alain's Chan saying yes, Celtic is a massive club.
Yes,
what do you guys think about that?
No, for me, Celtic is absolutely a step forward. I mean, they're regularly in Europe. They play in Champions League, if not Europa League.
It's a good question. Celtic and Rangers are huge clubs, and they play in Europe every year. And that's where the learning process will be. It won't be Scottish Premier League because if you look at the depth in the Scottish Premier League, whoever said, is it a step up? I'm not sure which one asked the question, but going from MLS to Scottish Premier League is probably not a step up, but the opportunity to play in Europe for Rangers or Celtic is a huge deal.
I agree. Now you do have some very good club, from in Scotland also. Apart from Rangers and Celtic, Aberdeen is always a good club. Hearts is always a good club, and St. Johnstone, where you have Weatherspoon, David Weatherspoon. Weatherspoon is a good club too. They won the Scottish Cup not too long ago, so I think it's a good competition. But going to Celtic, you have to look at it as he's going to play Champions League soccer. He's playing Champions League soccer like almost every year. So
in front of 60,000 people, right?
Yeah.
Also. So, and so no, for me, it's a step forward for sure. And visibility that he's gonna have. The visibility is gonna be awesome.
Off the charts.
Exactly. So it's amazing for him, for sure.
Yeah, so no, definitely. I think for me, this is a match made in heaven. And I think, I guess the big question is, from a Montreal perspective, does ZBG get another crack at the starting position, or would you anticipate having a de facto starter be signed?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. For me, you have ZBG and you have Mathieu Choinière. You don't need to sign anybody here. So you get that money. You get that money and you spend it elsewhere.
Okay. Counter. Obviously, we saw what Alistair Johnson had a phenomenal season with Montreal. He scored, I think he scored 4 goals and he got many more assists, and he was really involved. Like, even just if he didn't get an assist, a lot of his crosses or just his general passing and overlaps and whatnot led to interesting attacking chances for Montreal, even if they amounted not to anything. We've seen both Mathieu Choinière and ZBG. They've certainly been serviceable. I think ZBG really made a lot of his time this season, as limited as it was. Yeah. But at the same time, when both of them say were given regular starts, they did not. And Do you think the two of them can do the job now that we've kind of seen what it's like to have a really effective wingback?
Yeah, but we didn't see Mathieu Chouanière play on the right. We saw Mathieu
Yes, we
Chouanière
did.
play on the left.
Oh, sorry, I'm
most
thinking
the
of last.
time.
I'm thinking of
Yeah.
like last. I'm thinking of like 2021.
Exactly. 2021, yes, he played on the right and he was very, very good. And that's why he's been called up to Canada now because of his performances for 2021. I don't think he's been called up in 2022 for his performances in 2022.
Well, that would be weird because they were few and far between, really. Like he didn't have nearly as many minutes this season.
Exactly.
I mean. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I think
I don't know. Like
you have two different profiles, and so why would you get a third profile again, right? Unless you are able to get a really top player at that position. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why we go look for another right back, in my opinion.
So your hope basically would be that ZBG and Mathieu Chouanière, like one or the other, or maybe both in tandem, can bring it up closer to the level of what Alistair Johnston gave to Montreal last year.
Of course, and there's so many things. There's so many questions around CF Montreal right now.
Yeah. That's true.
No, we're talking about the rumors of departures of players, but first of all, we need to make sure that that we have the same ideas.
Yes, the same philosophy of play.
The same philosophy, the same tactical formation. Where's Sam when we need him? I know. So we'll see.
We'll see. Yes. Anything to add on that before we move on to the discussion that will impact our tactics for next year? All good, Paul? Are you still shocked by my geographical struggles?
But no, I'm not.
Okay,
really
you're over
shocked. It could have been worse. You could have said English.
There we go.
And that would have been geographically even more inaccurate.
It would have been like super insulting. I'm so sorry. All right, but anyway, as we mentioned earlier, Ismail Kone is also being linked with yet another English club. He was linked with Norwich City and Sheffield United during the summer, with Sheffield United publicly confirming their interest in him. And now we are hearing that Watford FC may have also entered the picture. So all three clubs are currently playing in the English Championship. And any thoughts on this, guys? To me, it's just a formality by this point.
Yeah, they said tonight 3 or 4 clubs in England have been chasing after this guy, Kone. And the one who seems to be at the forefront, according to what I heard tonight, Sheffield United.
Yeah, they were the ones who actually made the move over the summer, and it kind of fell apart on deadline day. And I know their coach said that they were going to take another crack in January for sure.
Yeah, they profiled him as well, and the pundits here before during the game actually they profiled him and talked about his career and how he's turning out at the World Cup like 9 months after making his professional debut and all this kind of stuff. So, he got a bit of a window here when he came on tonight, and it's like all these Canadian players now. Everybody's getting on to them, and it's great for the national program, right? That your players are in demand in Europe.
Yeah.
It's maybe not so great for the MLS clubs, but
there we go.
but I think it's a good thing all over.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
Yeah.
It is a good thing, and don't forget that now England can look at Canadian players, more closely because of the fact that Canada is in the top 50. So you don't.
Finally,
it's very, very simple for to get a work permit. So so that's gonna be the trend maybe in the next few years to see Canadian players playing in England. Whenever we have a promising Canadian player, this could be a route that will be.
The thing is, awesome. you don't only have Alphonso Davies anymore. You've Jonathan David doing it at Lille. You're going to have Alistair Johnson probably doing it at Celtic, and then you've got this World Cup performance behind you, right? So everybody's going to be interested.
Yeah,
for sure.
You have Steven Eustáquio that's doing wonders with the FC Porto. You have Liam Miller that's doing awesome with Basel in Switzerland. You have quite a few.
Well, Jason Buchanan, we haven't even talked about him tonight.
Oh my God!
Wow, what a player!
He's probably. I think he might be on the move sooner rather than later as well, eh? From Bruges.
Although he's with a good club at the moment.
He is with a good club.
He's done quite well in Champions League, but you're right. He could be on the move somewhere else. It wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility.
That is true.
Chan is saying something that Germany is close to be eliminated too. Canada, so.
They are now a goal down to Spain, and they were very nearly down 2 goals.
Exactly.
Spain are leading 1-0.
Yeah.
Wow.
They just
Wow.
scored a few minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. So and don't forget that Georgie is going now to the Netherlands also. So everything's going well for MLS players and Canadian players in particular. So
And yeah.
so
Sorry.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kamal Miller linked with the players
yeah,
with clubs in Europe too.
certainly could be. I think his role is just a little less glamorous, so it might fly a little more
by,
under the radar.
by the way, that's the other thing about having more players in Europe. It makes your country more attractive for Europeans if they have a free window during the Nations League, right? So there's a good chance with all your players based in Europe, you'll get Canada playing some of the top nations as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good point. Good point. But as exciting as things are for the Canadian players, obviously we just talked about how it could throw a wrench in things for Montreal, and there could be an even bigger wrench thrown in Montreal because it seems virtually on the verge of being confirmed that Wilfried Nancy will be the next head coach of the Columbus Crew. We are hearing a lot of rumors out of Columbus that it's going to be announced as early as tomorrow. Oh, and okay, Paul, are you okay?
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. So
we've seen it from a couple of different sources online already over the course of this weekend. We don't have any additional inside information to add, just to be clear. We are relying on those folks. But given the deafening silence that's come out of Montreal on his status ever since that post-mortem where things got real awkward, as they are wont to do in Montreal post-mortems. Yeah. What do we think, guys? Are we cringing? Are we?
It's unfortunate. It's really
I've seen a lot of reactions, going a lot. I've seen reactions, that are, blaming Wilfried Nancy for his choice, blaming Joey Saputo for maybe pushing him out the door. Kind of a lot of stuff. And it is like a little bit hard to swallow, I think, the coach moving basically laterally, right? Because if you were to move to a different league or move overseas, you can talk about that and you say, oh, he's moving up, you can understand taking this opportunity, blah, blah, blah. But moving to another club in the same league and even in the same conference feels like there's got to be some issues in the relationship that were just insurmountable.
Everybody talked about that famous incident between Joey Saputo and Wilfried Nancy after the Kansas City loss.
Yeah.
So we know about this. This is now public knowledge, right? So there was, of course, there is some history. Now, I don't want to blame anybody because I understand everybody. Joey Saputo, it's his club, right?
Yeah.
He's paid so many millions of dollars to make this club, stay in Montreal and to have a professional club in Montreal and to have a
that he's allowed to sabotage it with his own reactions.
He's allowed to do whatever he wants, right? So it's his club, it's his money, it's his. It's as simple as that. So can I blame him? No, because without him, we never would have seen any professional clubs in Montreal.
The question is just how much latitude, as for supporters, I understand it's his club, it's his money, it's his prerogative for sure. But at the same time, you're going to find it really hard to retain supporters if your management style alienates quality staff.
But this is not management.
No, I'm looking for the wrong. It's not quite the right word, but
it's different. We need, as fans, we need to understand the difference between an owner and a manager, between an owner and a president, between an owner and an executive of the club, right? So if it was Gabriel Gervais, that would have been very bad. But an owner, he's the owner.
Well, he has nobody to answer to. I agree with you there.
Exactly. There's nothing you can do. You can be a fan or you can be whatever you want. He chose at one point to put Kevin Gilmore and to get away from the club. We've seen what happened. It didn't look good.
Okay, but I think we're talking about apples and oranges here because...
No, we didn't. We were not. Sorry, we're not. We're not talking about apples and oranges. He tried to let go of his toy. But
but he let go, and he let go to somebody who was not a soccer guy.
Yeah, he appointed the wrong man, right? I think we're
Yeah.
all in
So-
agreement.
So you would do it again?
Have him let go again?
Do what?
With Gervais in place, you mean?
You would name someone else and still let go again after the first time when it didn't work. Like
Yeah, I would. If you get the right guy in, yeah, absolutely, I would. Yeah.
But he kind of did that by signing a permanent deal with Olivier Renard and getting Gabriel Gervais back. So in a way, he is trying to let go too.
Well, clearly he didn't.
One reaction is you saying that he didn't, just because he had one reaction. I don't know.
I don't know, Hady. I think you're being awfully generous.
See,
I gotta say.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm maybe not as close to this as what I was, and I'm probably I only know what I know. But there's a little bit of what a football club belongs to the people, the people who are going to watch it. It's maybe a little bit different because the model's a little bit different in North America. But the owner needs to be careful, and he really needs to be in a position to consider the people that are, because football fans. I don't care what anybody says. Football fans are not customers. Football fans are football fans, and they need to be treated properly. They shouldn't be kowtowed to, but they have to have respect, right? And the owner, I think, needs to be careful in what he and maybe we don't know what's behind the whole Nancy thing, Wilfred Nancy thing. So
No, it's true. Like, we probably won't hear the full story ever. Yeah.
And it's maybe not Joey's fault he's going. I don't know, but I don't think it's. I don't think an owner of a football club should take the mindset, I'm the owner, I can do what I want, because I think there's a lot of things that he needs to consider, before he makes decisions, and he needs to consider things carefully.
I agree. On that point, I completely agree. What I don't agree on is blaming Joey for being who he is. He's the owner. He's allowed to be who he is, right? So
right.
He's very passionate. And it's because of his passion that we have a club in Montreal. Right. So you take it and you take the bad that comes with the passion. Unfortunately, there are going to be some bad stuff coming along with the passion that is giving us some positive stuff too. So at the end of the day, it's a combo, right? So
right, but I think we're well within our rights to criticize when it goes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course we're in our rights. But for me, I can't criticize Joey Saputo. I just can't.
It is a package.
Okay,
I agree with you. Agree with you. It's a package, but there needs to be the ultimate position really, or the best position is harmony, right? You want to try and get harmony in your friend, your fans, and your ownership. That's the idea. The best way to do that is to get success. Now, if you don't get success, then you obviously have to try and manage the relationship in a different way.
Of course,
but you can't walk all over the fans.
I understand, but he didn't walk all over the fans. He just went and talked with Renancy, and Renancy didn't like what he said, and gave him didn't let him go into the locker room, and this is exactly what happened. So for me, I don't want to point out Joey as being the only reason why Wilfried Nancy is going. I think that Wilfried Nancy also has a blame in that decision, because you've been here for 11 years. You know who the owner is. I'm pretty sure that you've seen the worst of Joey, but also you've seen the best of Joey. So at the end of the day, it's for you to take a bit of.
I was just gonna say, and it's entirely possible that he wanted to leave. Maybe he wants to go to a club that's going to spend more on transfers. That's entirely possible as well.
Exactly.
So to be clear, like, just to be fair as well to poor Joey Saputo, who I've just thrown under a bus. We are somewhat speculating about the reasons for Wilfried Nancy's probable departure. But nonetheless, obviously, it's still going to sting no matter what for Montreal fans, because it finally felt like we had the right guy in place to build something long lasting with this team and with this city.
Yeah, most of the rumors were saying that we'll see this news officialized tomorrow, Monday. Yeah. But there was another tweet from our friend Jeremy Filosa saying that it's still too soon, as per his sources. It's still too soon to get an announcement tomorrow. So So I think we're gonna see a few more things happening until we see
Few more twists.
Premier's twists, exactly.
Well,
The
as long
official
as it's
announcement.
as long as they decide what they're gonna do, like maybe more than 5 days before preseason, that would be all right. Because we've been down that road before too. Although
Yeah.
it wound up working out okay for at least these past 2 years. But that being said, anything else to add on the departure rumors, or shall we move on to social media?
No, I would add one last thing. If in case Wilfried Nasi is leaving, I just hope we're not going to change the whole identity of the club again. We need to get a coach that follows into Nancy's footsteps, playing offensive, beautiful soccer. So, the soccer that we like to watch, right? To be
Mhm.
some sort of a show whenever a game is
Yeah.
on, and this is going to be very important. And of course, please promote the youth, promote the
I
youth.
was
And that's
waiting for that.
Oh man, but Nasi has done a tremendous
He
job
did. He
on that.
did.
So, and we have a lot of talent here in Quebec, and
Yeah.
we need to promote them. We need to give them a window. We need to give them a way to play, a way to grow, and that's exactly it comes. It's natural that the first club that should showcase the talent in the province should be CF Montreal. It's as simple
Mhm.
as that. So hopefully we'll
Hady,
see someone like that.
many things change in life, but it's great to hear you still saying promote the youth.
Of course. Of course, promote the
Yeah.
youth,
It's like
and
death, taxes, and play the youth.
exactly, play the youth, exactly. So hopefully we'll see that again from the next coach. I'm very interested to see who it will be. Are we gonna promote from within,
Within. Mhm.
or are we gonna go get a coach from elsewhere? Are we gonna see Thierry Henry back now that
That
there's
would
no
surprise me.
pandemic? We don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have lots of time, especially post World Cup preseason, to analyze that.
Yeah.
Mm. So with that being said, Hattie, I believe I'm gonna flip it over to you.
Yeah, exactly. Social media, guys. It was very tough because there was really a lot of good comments. But first of all, let's put our small jingle. So let's start with the first tweet, and it is from Niet a Trollbot 786. The people who started watching the Canadian national team this week have some wild takes. One, Atiba is class. Today was just not a game he was suited for. Two, Boyan is one of the main reasons we even made it to the World Cup. Three, Herdman is not often outcoached. Today he was. What do you guys think about this tweet?
I don't disagree with any of their 3 points. You know, I don't disagree.
Paul?
Yeah, well, Herdman was out coached today. Okay, the
Yeah.
greatest coaches in the world have been out coached, and it was said earlier as well that it's a learning process. But so what? He was out coached. We lost the game today, but there's other games where he's out coached the coach. The other
Yeah.
coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Second tweet is from Colby. Canada Soccer's the Canadian men's national team will make it to the World Cup semifinals in 2026. I look at Eve's facial expression. And
my face is always gonna say what I'm thinking.
Go ahead, Eve.
Bold, 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 bold.
Bold
Yeah,
as possible.
and Glentoran will be European champions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. European champions.
Maybe they'll eventually make like a league below Conference League or something, and they can be European champions. I'm sorry.
Are they Irish champions or before being?
No, they're not. No, they're
exactly.
not.
Let's start with that first.
Okay.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is Canada getting to the semifinals of 2026. Yeah, and
Is as likely. Yeah.
I know.
No, Canada should have an advantage because they will get better seeding as a host. But nonetheless, even in 4 years, obviously a lot can happen in 4 years. But No, I mean, European football and South American football would just have to completely go, ass over tea kettle, for that to happen.
Chan's point's a good one there. Why not have
That
South Korea
is,
made it that far as hosting two? Listen, it could happen. It could happen. I
Yeah.
just
Could
don't think
happen.
it will. It could happen.
no,
I don't think
It
it
all
will.
depends on your group. I think that the next step would be to qualify from group stage. I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be the next step in the
I
progression
agree.
of Canada soccer.
I agree, but we also need to be mindful that Canada needs to be really careful with their youth players over these next few years. And
Yeah.
we had a little bit of a talk with Brianne Wilkinson. We didn't go deep into it, but I know she mentioned a little bit that we need to manage that youth side of things a little bit better, because some of those players who might be in our youth camps now could be part of that World Cup squad.
Yeah, and we do have a few players that we've seen, make their debut with the Canadian national team with Corbeanu. That's someone I think that's going to be very interesting in the future.
Mhm.
You have quite a few players that you can that are quality players that will one day I think represent Canada, and maybe will be a part of the squad in 2026. We'll see. Let's move on to the third tweet, and it's friend of the pod, Alexander Gange-Ruzik, that
I love
says,
Alex.
last
Okay.
thing on this for now. The Canadian national team lost to Haiti in 2019. They beat the US 3 games later and then made the Gold Cup semis in 2021. Canada lost 4-1 on the road to the US in 2019, then had one of the best road records in CONCACAF in Octagon. These losses can shape a team. I love the wording on this tweet. I love everything that Alex said. And it just proves everything that we said during this episode, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, I agree.
No
Alex is always
argument.
really well spoken and well written.
Exactly.
No argument with any of that. No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Next tweet is from Claudio Cardio, answering a Jeremy Filosat tweet, saying on Wilfried Nasi leaving. He said he could leave, no problem. It's a slap in our faces, no problem. No big loss. We need to go get Biello back now. What do you think about that? Let's start with Paul. More Biello back at the helm of CF Montreal?
I think it would. Look, listen, Wilfried Nancy, we didn't know what he was going to be like when he came into the role. We hoped that it would turn out well, and it's probably turned out better than any of us could have expected. And he's made steady progress. He's done exceptionally well. The season the team had this season, well, it's the best season ever, right? When you look at regular season play, and I think he's done a brilliant job. Yeah, it will be a slap in the face, and it'll be he'll be very, very difficult to replace. I don't believe Mauro Biello is as well-rounded and knowledgeable a coach.
Yeah.
Despite his years experience, maybe more years experience at a higher level than Wilfried Nancy, but I don't believe he's as rounded and as knowledgeable a coach as what Wilfried is.
I would have to agree. Mauro Biello, he obviously bleeds bleu blanc noir. No secret. I don't think he would be lacking in any passion or enthusiasm for the job, if he wants to come back. But at the same time, when we saw him in 2016, 2017, tactically, he just wasn't quite there. And we haven't seen... he's been now at the assistant coach level with Canada for quite some time. We did see him lead the U20s, which we were eventually told the U20 experience was more of like them experimenting and seeing different players than perhaps playing proper tactics, but it didn't look good. And U23, my apologies. U23. Nonetheless, it didn't look good. Even worse now because there were older players. So for me, I think like Paul said, we need somebody with that tactical acumen because we saw the benefits that Montreal got from it.
There's two things that I would say about that. First of all, I don't like returns. I think I've said it.
I could have said that for you. I could have said, I know what I was going to say.
Cristiano Ronaldo, anyone?
Yeah, that went great, didn't it?
So that's the first thing. And second of all, as I said a bit earlier, we need someone that follows in Nancy's footsteps, play the same kind of soccer. And unfortunately, this is not at all what Mauro Biello is about. Chan just said it. Biello is the complete opposite of Nancy's style. Maybe not the complete opposite, but he's nowhere near the same free-flowing style that we've seen from Wilfried Nancy's team. So no for me. I'm sorry. Let's move on to the fifth tweet, and it's from Abdul Sal, saying "too soon" with the meme done
At home.
with the
Oh,
quote
God.
with the quote from John Herdman saying, "I told them they belong here, and we're gonna go F Croatia. It's as simple as it gets." And after 10 haunting photos taken moments before disaster.
Abdu is actually a really funny guy on Twitter. I laugh at a lot of his tweets. Yeah,
he is, and he has a great podcast on Formula One, by the way. So if you guys are fans of Formula One, but in French though, if you're fans of Formula One, feel free to listen to his pod. I don't know if it's still on, but pretty sure it is. So yeah, great meme, Abdu.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, from Audrey Magny, I wouldn't mind if CF Montreal signed Sam Adegupe. We all know we need a good lefty. Please do. Please do.
No, come on. If he's already in Turkey, he's already essentially in Europe. So for me, he's there.
Yeah, but if CF Montreal signed him.
Oh yeah, no. If I can dream, I would be so thrilled.
Okay, good.
So, to be fair, realistically, like no.
Audrey's a photographer, right?
Yeah, she is. Yes,
really nice.
Yeah.
She is a great. And she has a podcast too that's called Foot Cafe on local soccer. So I would suggest you to go listen to it too.
We've no questions from Roberto Turinardi, no?
No, we have no questions.
Ravi's busy. Ravi's watching, I think, some post-game coverage elsewhere.
And he's maybe still behind his couch. Maybe that's what's wrong.
Yeah, so that's it for me for social media, guys. Thanks for the great tweets that we've seen today. And thanks for always listening. It's always really nice.
Yes. Alrighty. So thank you so much, first and foremost, to Paul Vance for joining us once again. Always happy to hear from the OG. Thank you as well to you, Hady, for joining me on this early afternoon episode, despite your voice giving you some grief. But you sounded great. As well, just a friendly reminder, while our content will always remain free for our listeners, we have started a Patreon for anybody who wishes to support our endeavors, and we are immensely grateful for all of the support, just as we are very grateful to everyone who sends us questions and tunes in and sends us comments every week. So grateful. So for everyone, let's enjoy a last great World Cup match for Canada. Take care. Have a great week, and we will be talking to you next Sunday on The Ball is Round.